great to see all the work they've done.
If I could say, I just let people just see and touch the product, how
Yes.
look to find it if someone wants to see.
Yeah.
Just pause that.
So now we're going to go on to the question end of things. So I'm just going to get some mics. Judy, will you do, and we'll take. Stephan said don't ask him any questions, but you can. Lady in the back and lady in the class and the guy in the bar. Yeah.
Hello, hi. My question is, could you describe the purging process? What does that involve? The final product, I
Okay,
guess.
so on purging is, I usually have them in a little cage that I do with chicken wire. So purging is basically just getting out of the poop after them. So you let them dry for about 3 days, make sure all the poop goes out, and then you can package them into the nets ready for hibernation. Because if they have the feces still in them while they're forming their operculum, they will die.
So basically you don't give them any food, any water whatsoever. So you have to, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make them think that it's getting to winter, they have no food, humidity goes down, and they go into many shells to sleep.
Well, you can if you want to for your consumption at home, like you can give them carb or something, just a little bit better flavor, but not much. Just about 3 days, just once give them and wash them.
Good luck to live with over a million snails, yeah?
No. It's just that if you make in your lunch,
Oh yes.
yeah,
oh,
you won't give them.
Yeah.
Not for.
I just wanted to ask, would it be feasible to grow, to have snails on raised beds?
What do you mean by raised beds?
Off the ground.
Off the ground. Like raised vegetable beds.
Like in the fields or?
Yeah.
Well, we've never tried it before, but there's more work involved in regards to the initial construction cost, and as well as that, summer is a beautiful time of the month because they're all there in the field. There's a lot of vegetation there. You're actually creating them a natural environment to live. And remember, guys, if you are thinking about Irish produce, or if you're thinking about Ireland, you're thinking about organic, green, free-range, clean. So I can't see any point really building an extra construction in the field once they have everything they need in place.
Just want to keep that simple, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, yeah.
Height make a big difference.
Yeah, the soil type is, there's different conditions, Penny's got a slide there, that she'll probably show you later. Like the higher pH, the better, so it's a hostile environment for slugs. You'll get a better green type of vegetation out of your chicory and your rape and whatever you decide to plant. So with soil, you can fix. If you go Wexford soil, it's even better.
Irish soil is pretty good as well.
Hi, alright. Just wondering, you also start on a small scale, but what kind of land area are you talking about your initial fattening beds on?
Well, that depends on the tonnage which you want to produce. So I would say acre.
I don't believe in small. Go 10 tons, and then that's how they get it.
That's not the question. By books you can produce 10 tons of the snails on each acre of the land, but I always advise and encourage people to give them a bit of extra room, because the general rule is that the more living space you give to your animals, the faster and more consistently they will grow. And as I said, we have no shortage of land in Ireland whatsoever. So, but by books is the 10 tons of the product from 1 acre of the land.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah, again, Eva, when you say start off, you say it's okay to start with a 1 acre size plot,
Well,
10 tons.
to me,
Stack up.
well, like Stephan started from 10 tons production, and I said to him, listen, take it easy, don't go that big. But I often advise people to not to start more than with a 5-ton production in year 1, because it's manageable. And as I said to you at the very beginning, once you complete your full cycle, that's a year one, and once you're happy with what you've achieved, you can expand as much as you like. But if you ask me for my advice, I wouldn't go bigger than 5 tons in the year one.
Yeah. You also said that there was a net profit of 20,000 from
An acre of
from
land,
the-
yes.
from the- Will we get to see at some stage a breakdown of that?
Well, we can have a private session afterwards. Yeah, because remember, I often get this question: what is the startup cost if I want to go into the business? It will be different for everybody. Like I haven't seen your premises, guys. Like we've in Gary here started with absolutely nothing, even if finding suitable premises, and we still, like Stephan, we still rent premises, and it's a huge risk for us to take. But what was I telling you about? Sorry, what was it? Oh, startup cost, yes. So I meet people and they said, oh Eva, I have this shed, I have already polytunnel in place, I have so raw materials around. So for this kind of person, the startup cost will be less than it was for us. And even the fact that we've made, even infrastructure-wise, we've made so many mistakes. If I showed you our, like you've seen our breeding room, it's first of all, it's located it's converted from all the loft. So I have the steep stairs running up and down. I would never do that again. I always advise people that the cheapest and the fastest way to have your reproduction room done and ready is to buy a 40-foot container. It's cheap to buy and it's very easy to insulate. And on top of that, even our breeding tables inside our breeding room, they were redesigned 3 times before we were happy with the final outcome. Because for us, the design we were using at the start, well, we spent just too much time and by looking after the snails at this stage and breeding stage. Basically, first 4 months are crazy in regards to labor. So you just try to make your life easier and just to reduce this labor cost. And when I remember our year one, we were copying everything what they did in Poland. But their breeding, the whole cycle was just too labor intensive, and it was the mortality rate was too high. Remember, if you want to sell your product fresh, like we are all in farming, we are all price takers and prices dedicated by market. So the lads in Poland, they will get exactly the same price per ton like us here in Ireland, providing the I'm talking about fresh produce now. Just the processing is a completely different product itself. But in Poland, you pay somebody 2 or 3 euro, he or she will do a job for us. In Ireland, because the labor is so expensive, when we were introducing our innovations here, we had really 2 factors in mind, 3 basically. The weather, the labor, so we were trying to reduce labor as much as possible, and the mortality rate, because it was just too high for us.
I would say one more thing, yeah, don't go for everything the cheapest which you find on internet, because like from my experience, I bought 3 times spoon. If I find the right one, like I started with the cheapest and a little bit more expensive, and the final I buy the proper one. So you know what I mean. If you will spend in the final much more for cheap things, and after you will actually need to go and buy the proper one. So be careful what you buy, and just consult with someone, and just, you need loads of research and consult with someone, how to proper build and everything, what to use. That's advice, yeah.
But there's one more thing, just don't afraid to ask. You have us here, there are more snail farmers in this room, and like we had nobody, so use this opportunity to ask questions, because I personally, I believe in working together, I believe in collaborating together, because I believe this is the only way to build the snail industry in Ireland to be successful and sustainable. And I can see this cooperation in the future where we could gather all Irish snails in one place and market them as an Irish produce. And I think Sean mentioned that at the very beginning. It's all about collaborating and working together and helping each other. And I tell you,
sorry, I'm going to cut across you.
Oh,
There's
sorry.
related questions. We'll get round to them afterwards, I promise. But I have
Yeah,
4 people here.
I was wondering, when does your breeding season start and how long for?
Well, my
But I talk too much. So
well, I had only one so far, so I started in February. I just weighed my snails and placed them to tunnel, the breeding tunnel. And you need to make condition, around 20 degrees, and yeah, that's when I started. February, it's the depends, yeah.
It depends on your production. If you want to breed 10 tons worth of snails, 1.2 million, let's say, you need to start in December, because otherwise you won't finish it. You will start in December and you'll finish about in March. Your snails need to be ready that same year, otherwise, you know, you'll have to let it roll over for the next year. So if you want to sell your crop that same year, you need to start early.
Oh, it's right, yeah. Like I did, because I go into food production way, so I bred only 250,000, so it's completely different from Stephan and my snails are actually Maxima, so we are a little bit different way, but yeah, no, Stephan's right there.
Hi. When you have them in the breeding tunnel, what soil do you put in the pots that they lay their eggs in? What soil do you put? Is it normal
I
topsoil?
usually use bagged topsoil is the best because it's already sterilized. After that, you just put a layer of hay or straw on top of it and you burn it, just to make sure all the spider eggs comes out of it. Then you mix it 4 parts of topsoil with 1 part of mortar sand. That's the proper mixture to use it, so it doesn't fall apart when you turn the pot over, and it's easier to get the eggs out, and it will stay in clumps rather than go all over the place.
I'm using also worms, just because worms they cleaning soil, so.
And is that the same soil then that you put in the incubation trays? Or is that
No,
different
incubation
soil
trays are
altogether?
use vermiculite, because what vermiculite does, it absorbs moisture when it's too wet, and then it releases moisture again when it gets too dry.
And during the process then, because essentially they're shells or nails, do you supplement them with additional calcium?
No, it's all in the baby food already. It's a proper formula.
So we use basically 3 different types of food. We use a different food for our breeding stock, different food for baby snails, and different food for the actual fattening stage.
And where do you source this from?
But at the moment we are outsourcing our food from France.
Sorry, the other thing.
Just to get back to costings, assuming that you have the land and you're going to start off with a good quality infrastructure, roughly how much would that cost? Just a question.
The fattening area outside, I'd say about you get away between 12 and 15,000.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi. I have a couple of questions. The first one is the snail food. You mentioned it was radish and cabbage and such, but is there any other type of food that you feed them, such as soybean meal to bulk up protein in them?
What we do is to ensure they fatten enough for the first year, we give them a mixture. So in your fattening area, you will plant. You get the correct mixture, make sure they have enough protein. So usually brassicas is very good for that. You know, any type of things. But try and avoid any sticky like rape, the proper rapeseed and those things. And then you need to give powder food as well. Otherwise they don't have enough vitamins. Vitamin D is a big problem in Ireland. We don't get enough sun. So it's got all the vitamins and stuff in there. That's needed.
What type of powder food are you talking about?
It's Helinov. There's different types of food.
So basically the dry food for snails is a mixture of different oats, different vitamins and a calcium, as the snails need lots of calcium for the shells to develop properly. The vegetation in the field, we treat it as a supplement food, and it's very important because it gives your snail 24-hour access to the food, and as well as that vegetation in the field, it creates this ideal environment for the snails to live in. So we're really stimulating them natural living conditions.
Okay. And just in relation to temperatures for drying and purging, humidity, etc., what temperatures are you talking about? What range for RH as well?
It's different for drying, you know, it's not the temperature as such, you just try and keep the humidity down as low as possible.
What's the optimum temperature?
Maybe about 5 degrees.
Yeah, hello. The presentations you've made now, that is, we listened to Stephan and Shamrock and Eva. My own taking is that the approach to the snake farming is different. And so, which is the best way to approach it, really? Or is there no uniformity as it is right now?
No, but what Penny will explain to you probably later as well is there is different ways of farming. You get a total outdoor method, which is the least labor intensive, but it takes like after year 3, you'll only have a crop to sell. The ones that we're doing here is to sell snails the same year. So we breed them now, so we can sell them at the end of the year. I don't have 3 years time to wait for my money.
But we also prepare the different presentations to explain the different angles of the business. So just to put everything together, really.
There's loads of different ways.
Yeah.
You might buy your own.
Hello, good morning. When you were starting your respective businesses, did you find there was let's say, financial support from government, Enterprise Ireland, or certain boards like that? And also, when you went to banks for loans and that and startup funds, were they engaged? Were they serious? Or how did you find that experience?
Yeah, remember, a business needs to be profitable before you rely on any grant funding or aid or any of that. So that you do afterwards. If they see you are serious and you started, you invested a bit of money yourself, they will always be able to help you. If you formulate a proper business plan, like all of us did, you need to work on your financials, speak to as many people as possible to get into the ideal situation for yourself. But the banks, especially AIB, they're very good with helping with that. The Strategic Banking Corporation of Ireland, they helped me. So the government backs or guarantees your loan, and with that they give you a reduction in your interest rate. So I pay 2% less than the 4.25%, and by that the banks are guaranteed their money, and then they help me start up.
Well, I can give you a half-an-hour lecture about it. We don't have time for that, I suppose. But we can talk later if you're interested.
Well, there's a couple of questions there. Why do you outsource the meal?
Where's the gentleman there? Why we outsourcing the meal?
Yeah, out to friends.
The reason why we're outsourcing meal because I believe that at present there's no suitable food available for our produce. I know that there are different projects going on across the country, and some people are trying to develop different recipes. But to me, these recipes, they have to be tested first before you start using them, because as I mentioned to you at the very beginning, your final production will depend on weather and on the food you're going to give to your snails. And because we've learned, everything what we've learned was hard way, I can't take a risk by giving my snails just wrong type of food, and they won't reach the full grown the same year, and I will end up with a half mature stock. So food is absolutely crucial. I would love to see somebody in Ireland developing a good quality snail food, because for us it doesn't make any sense that it's an extra cost for us to importing food from France. But there are different projects going on across the country, and once we are happy with results, then we can say yes, this is it, and let's start producing snail food in Ireland. And I remember as well the red meals. I was talking to red meals guys. It's all about volume. We need a volume in order to make it happen, because nobody wants to deal with us if it's just a few of us, if you know what I mean. So
another question: how many tons of feed would you be using for, say, to grow 10 tons of snails, and what cost per ton?
Well, the general rule is 1 to 1, so in order to produce 1 ton of the produce, you need 1 ton of the food. And the cost, as I said, we use 3 different types of food, but the cost on average to have the product landed in Ireland is €500 per ton.
Thanks, Stephen. The 2 last questions, so Paddy and then...
3 great presentations.
Thank you.
Stephan, question for you. You produced 9,000 odd kilos and a lot of labour, some of which was your own, or most of which was your own, I guess, and then a lot more at harvesting. Do you have any figures on the total number of hours input during the year to produce that quantity?
The problem I had is like I didn't use the proper nets, so every time it rained, the snails were very all over the place, so I had to go pick them up. So to measure it, it's crazy, but the harvesting, like I said, it's 20 full days, and it was between 6 and 9 hours that we did it per day, and we were 5 people. With that said as well, I didn't do it a smart way because I didn't have the flaps on the nets, so this made my job like 6 times more difficult. Because usually if they got the flaps, you just go with a little scoop and a bucket underneath it, and then tomorrow you come back and the snails will be there again. And because I did my harvest so late, they were a lot less active. So I had to go search for them in the vegetation afterwards. So, but that's how you learn. I won't cut that corner again.
Okay, we're taking one last question and then we're going for coffee because we have to come back. We have our first international guest speaking and want to be back here at 12 o'clock. So the last question down here in front row, second row.
David, I just want to ask, how many do they get diseases?
Where is the gentleman? Oh yeah, they are actually, so we have predators and Marek explained that very well. We're talking about Stephan as well, we're talking about land predators such as mice and rats and then the birds, but there are parasites associated with snails and you have to be very careful. That's why when I'm talking to people out there, I often keep telling them about keeping the density right. If you overcrowd your snails, they might get sick. So during the first stage, for example, reproduction stage, we don't keep more than 100 snails per square meter. This is when they are in the reproduction room itself. And then the baby snails, we don't keep more than 2,500 baby snails per ton up to 4 weeks, and then no more than 250 in the actual fattening field. Remember, if you overcrowd your snails, if your snails get sick, you can't really do much. They won't lay eggs, they won't mate. We don't use any chemicals, but what we use during the first stage, breeding stage, we cook them, I call it a nettle soup. So what we do is we boil nettles with some garlic and cloves. We bring this solution to the boil, then we cool it down and we spray our snails with this solution every second day. And we never have a problem with parasites, but I know people, they do. And the only thing you have to be very careful is, so density is one thing, the second thing is the standard of hygiene in this room has to be kept and maintained on a regular basis. And remember, this stage takes place just 3 to 4 months a year, or 2 to 3 rather months a year. Once it's done, you just disinfect the room and it's ready for the next season. So.
Sorry, can you hold the mic up a little bit closer?
Yes. Once a year or?
Once a year, yes.
Great. Thanks very much, everybody, and thanks. We give the panel a great round of applause.